there are moments where the administration is willing to say, well, let's tap the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But are they willing to go, a step farther in terms of direct relief and cut checks again? No, not at this point, I don't think.
Well, here's some more bad news for Democrats. New NBC polling measured the public's opinion on 9 different political figures and institutions, including Joe Biden, Donald Trump, the Supreme Court, and Vladimir Zelensky. The most unpopular in terms of net favorables was the Democratic Party.
I should have put Nickelback in there just to see. Just to see. I think that's really bad news for the Democratic Party, obviously. Jordan, what do you make of that? I think, so my sense is that Americans just do not feel like the administration, Biden, and thus the Democratic Party, are taking inflation seriously enough. I think they were late to the party about the baby formula shortage is now a huge deal, absolutely affecting working families. And Jen Psaki, I think, fielded that question last week and was like, oh yeah, we're doing something about it. Well, what? And there's so much attention to Ukraine, or Ukraine's going to get billions because they need that. Okay, fine, but what about how much more suffering can people actually stand here? The party doesn't seem like it's paying attention or like it has a plan.
Yeah, I mean, I think this underscores, and Briahna certainly knows, the media kind of sold that Joe Biden was the most electable. But in reality, if you look at exit polls from 2020, people didn't really vote out of love for Joe Biden and the Democratic Party. They voted to remove Donald Trump. And pretty early on, beyond just inflation, President Biden kind of abandoned some of his baseline promises, from a $15 minimum wage, just unilaterally removing that from major bills. You don't hear about a public option, et cetera, et cetera. So, of course, inflation right now is a major thing. But when even your campaign promises, the top one, which was a $15 minimum wage, that was out the door right early on. It really gives voters a focus on the Democratic Party, elitism, out of touchness, rather than delivering. Say what you want about Trump, he followed through on his promises, whereas Biden, sure, you could say 50-50 Senate, but he didn't really even fight for those major things. So that makes, when you couple that with the inflation now, which there's not a ton Biden can do, the numbers make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does seem like the flip side of him trying to exculpate himself by saying, hey, it's not my fault that Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are holding everything up, is that he's also saying to voters, there's nothing I can do. I'm inept. If you vote for me again, there's going to be more of the same thing. So while you have some folks that are beating the vote for more Democrats drum, they've also really put the message out there in a way that's destructive to their own interests, that Democrats are ineffectual. They know they're ineffectual. Unlike Donald Trump, Joe Biden very early on was explicit about his unwillingness to use executive orders in the way that Donald Trump had done. So student debt cancellation being this huge issue and this popular issue that could directly affect the lives of 44 million Americans, 44 million potential voters, is treated as like a kind of silly, bête noire that's stalking the Democratic Party instead of a real political opportunity. Philip, what do you think about this?
I think you nailed it on the head right there, because you have this unwillingness to pick up the pen and the phone in the same way that President Obama did in some of these areas. Obviously, I know progressives were not completely thrilled with everything he did, but there's a hesitancy by President Biden to do that. And then there's a realization, he said the other day, yeah, I know why voters are blaming me for inflation, because we control the House, the Senate, and the White House. And then he had to immediately correct himself and say, well, we don't totally control the Senate. I don't have control over all of those votes. He's a bit hamstrung there. I think that this leads to an interesting question for what comes next. What happens when we wake up in 2023 and perhaps one or both chambers are controlled by Republicans? What does Biden then do? Do you see him lean into executive action? Does he flex those muscles, which is going to lead to a backlash and maybe a lack of a working relationship with whoever, with with whatever Republicans want to do in Congress, or does he sort of moderate, and does he look for areas where he can sort of compromise with Republicans? Thus far, I don't think we have a good answer on that. What we've heard, whether it's from Build Back Better or to trying to codify Roe, is a sort of "woe is me" message from this administration, where they say, well, if only we had a supermajority in the Senate, we could actually do what we promised you